sports perspective. Hey there, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Hope you're doing well today. Wondering what's going on? Go live here. We're having a problem with tech because I said on Friday last week all the tech was working properly, right? I jinxed it, folks. It looks like we're on air. It looks like we're live on YouTube. That's what matters most, I guess. So we're going live here. We're having a little bit of a problem going live on some of the other streams. So I'm efforting to make that work. But I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Bear with me as I push buttons here behind the scenes, try to get everything rocking and rolling. Thanks for joining me today. Really appreciate that. Always available Monday through Friday when the tech works let me try this again. Sorry, got a lot of things going on here. Ray Flowers, FantasyGuru.com. This is Fantasy Sports Daily, Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Justin Fensterman hosts on Wednesdays. I host Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. On the other day of Wednesday, I'm on with Jeff Manzardo on the Elite Sports Show, and that is on the hours of 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jeff's on 3 o'clock Eastern, Monday through Friday on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. And here is our free show at FG, again, Monday through Friday. Monday, I usually talk baseball for the whole hour. We usually go about an hour a day. That's what I'm going to do today. The rest of the week, we sprinkle in some football talk. Lots going on in the world of football. My goodness. Stay tuned today, later on, to make sure you get everything taken care of with Jeff Mans on the Elite Sports Show. Again, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. See if we can get, maybe I can get this going here. Let's see if I can get this going here. Let's see, folks. Maybe we can get that one going. Remove this stream. Save changes. Bear with me, folks. I'm just trying to get us up on Twitter X. We'll see if I can make it happen. We're doing things. But yeah, the show is beautiful and wonderful when the tech works. And we'll get to that in a second. Let's see here. Let's see if I can get us going live there. Maybe we can get a little workaround going. Oh, we can't get a little workaround going. Anyway, so I guess it's just not going to happen today. But that's okay. We're everywhere else. Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. YouTube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. Both of those places, if you're watching us, you can watch us live, which is hopefully what you're doing. You can also leave questions, ask questions, leave comments, all that kind of stuff on the show while we're doing things. And we address them. So if you say something snappy, witty, funny, if you have a question, a query, we will address those. Usually we also have that on Twitter X, but for some reason today it's just not working. We'll try to get that posted up later. But you can always go to FantasyGuru.com, click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page, and you can find the shows there. You can type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your podcast network. That always works too. So you can check that out. If you have any problems, let us know. All right, so what are we talking about today? Let me make a note here. Twitter needs to be fixed. What's going on Twitter? All right, on the show today, we've got a lot to talk about. We'll talk about the March Madness guide in just a second here. But before we start talking about all the baseball, we'll deal with that. When it comes to baseball, we got a lot to talk about. A lot happened over the weekend, obviously, including big news. Grayson, Rodriguez, Gerrit, Cole leading the way. We'll talk about all the players you see there. Guys pitching well, guys dealing with injuries, workload considerations, volatility situations on the hill. And we'll ask the simple question. You still want to draft pitching early? You're still thinking that's the right thing? We'll discuss it here. Don't forget to go to FantasyGuru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner, and you get signed up for any and all of the packages over at the site: football, baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, NASCAR, MMA, PGA, horse racing. We got all of it covered over at FantasyGuru.com, so check it out over there. You can always send a note to support@FantasyGuru.com. support@FantasyGuru.com to ask us a question. Maybe there's something you want to do that you don't see there. Maybe you want to combine this and that and figure things out. Don't worry about that. We got you covered over at FantasyGuru.com. Okay, so let's go. Let me make a comment here. One last attempt. Here we go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Let me change my face here because I know you all want to see my face. Over the weekend, this has not been official. Let me take one more look. I just looked like 10 minutes ago. It's not official yet. I don't think it's not officially official, but it has been recommended, according to reports from Jim Bowden, who I work with at SiriusXM. We did a show last week on Monday, the GM's Corner. Jim is reporting, and he wouldn't report this unless he obviously knew, that it has been recommended that Gerrit Cole has surgery on his elbow and has Tommy John surgery, meaning that his season is over for 2025, and obviously his start of 2026 is in question. Again, the team hasn't officially confirmed this, but we heard Cashman, the GM, say that he was preparing for the worst news yesterday or Saturday. So it's basically over with Gerrit Cole. And, you look at Gerrit Cole, and for those people that were thinking that, I'm going to get a solid 180 innings here, we're going to get 180 strikeouts, his ADP is as low as it's ever been. Gerrit Cole, has he already fallen that far in the... No, Gerrit Cole, yeah, he's already fallen that far in the NFBC. Wow. His ADP was coming off the board just outside, I think, the top 10 pitchers. So, he was oftentimes being grabbed as an SP2. And as an SP2, Gerrit Cole looked like a whiz-bang, lockdown decision. We even talked about this on SiriusXM. We've done a bunch of drafts over at SiriusXM. We have one final draft that I'll be hosting tonight. There are still Tout Wars drafts that they'll be hosting, I think, coming up on the weekend here. But tonight, I'm in the FSGA Champions Draft. I'm in it. I'm also hosting it. Yeah, they love it when I do both. It's not the easiest thing in the world. But, hey, it's a lot of fun. We'll do that. Do that tonight. We'll get a chance to cover that. But we've been hosting a lot of these drafts, and we made a comment last week. I want to say it was the Tout Wars draft, like team, I don't know, 14, 15, something like that out of the 15-team mix. They had taken Gerrit Cole like in the 5th round, and we're like, wow, that's worth doing as a second starting pitcher. Not so much now. And again, it's not official, but it clearly appears that Gerrit Cole's season is over, that again, his season outlook for next year is up in the air. The Yankees obviously are decimated with injuries. They lost Luis Gil for months, it sounds like, at best case scenario. Probably 3 months at best case for Gil. We'll talk a little bit later about Giancarlo Stanton. The Yankees are just in trouble. And, you can't lose at this point, especially less than 3 weeks of the season begins. You can't lose Gerrit Cole and replace him. So the Yankees are going to have to piece it together. And that's a tough place to be when you lose a guy that you anticipate making 30 quality starts. Not starts that are quality. And woof. And it brings up the larger point, because we'll talk about Grayson Rodriguez here in a second too. This idea that, guys get hurt all the time. We talked last week about the oblique injury and how that's such a significant thing for offensive players. And pitchers have it too, but it seems to be a little bit more on the offensive side of things. And then we've obviously got the elbow issue that's ever present in baseball for hurlers. And it brings up the question that I've asked for years now and continue to ask for years now. Why are people drafting these guys at such a risk? It just doesn't make any sense. No sense at all. Like, why are we doing this? Why are you taking hurlers that you can't trust at all to stay on the field, that you can't trust at all to be able to take the ball 30 times, that you can't at all have any level of you can't have any level of confidence that these people are going to get it done. Right? Right. So what are we doing? What are we doing? And I don't know how many times, sorry, folks, I'm still trying to effort to get all this tech stuff working here. I don't know why or how many times we can do this dance of, I got to take pitching early and it's going to work. Really? Because you're going to be the one person that drafts the pitchers that don't get hurt. That's what's going to happen. You're the person. Good luck with that. And I've written a series of articles over at fantasyguru.com. The 3 series of articles: early pitching, middle round pitching, late pitching. And I would encourage everyone again to go over to the site if they haven't had the opportunity yet and go read those articles, because I think they're very important. That they are articles that the average person could benefit from reading. And I think if you look at the teams, the team that has the push out pitching, the late pitching group, turns out pretty well. And it's not just what are the arms you get. It's not just what are the batters you get. It's this discussion we have all the time. It's the question about what's the risk, what's your risk tolerance, and what is the risk level you're taking. Taking a risk by drafting, by taking Matt Shaw in the 14th round. Okay, it's a little risky, but okay. Matt Shaw looks like he's going to open in the everyday lineup for the Cubs, and if everything comes together, he goes 20-20. It's the 14th round. Okay, it's a little early, like if that was the 24th round, fantastic, okay. In the 4th round, the 3rd round, you're taking the pitcher. If that guy blows out, if Gerrit Cole, as he did, craps out, who do you replace him with? Brandon Pfaadt? And what also happens is, at least if you're going to do the pitching early, if you're going to ignore the advice, which I know a lot of people do, if you're going to do that, you have to at least build depth on your pitching side. You have to do it. I know not enough people do it. They don't build that depth on the pitching side. So they take the guys at the top of the draft, they get those 3 starters in the first 6 rounds or whatever it might be, and then they kind of coast. And then the rotation is filled out with, Jose Quintana, and it's filled out with Kyle Harrison, and it's filled out with Charlie Morton, and it's like, eh. So even if you're going to ignore the advice and go pitching early, that's fine, whatever. Just make sure that you continue to draft pitching, because just because you got an ace or 2 at the top does not mean you're going to have an ace or 2 moving forward. Grayson Rodriguez, who we talked about last week, who said after his outing he was fine. The team said he was fine after the outing despite the decreased velocity. They then came out and said his triceps was an issue, so he's not fine. So neither one was honest, the team or the player. We didn't really know what's going on, but we did get an update on Grayson Rodriguez. It's, all things considered, seems pretty good news. He's going to be shut down for 7 to 10 days, which is now, 5 to 8 days, after receiving a cortisone shot in his elbow. And then they're going to ramp things back up and see how it goes. Now, we heard triceps. Let's remember, folks, triceps is here. Elbow is here. I talked about this myself. I had a cortisone shot last week on my shoulder. It's a agent to help reduce inflammation and swelling and all that, to allow you to do what you need to do. It doesn't fix the problem. It doesn't heal you. It's not PRP, anything like that. But it is a tool that you can utilize. And it's not an aggressive tool at all. It's very common. Baseball players get injections, cortisone all the time. Okay, so now if they do this and in 7 to 10 days he starts throwing, and then we hear any kind of, that's a problem. As it is right now, you have to look at Rodriguez and think, it's March 10th. His odds of making opening day are pretty low, but mid-April we can handle that. If he has any kind of setback now, we're at risk of losing all of April. That's just how it is. So, Rodriguez, who I told the story, I think here on the show, who I drafted myself, got Rodriguez on a squad in a keeper league scenario, and I thought to myself, all right, I got Grayson. I have no shares of Grayson Rodriguez anywhere. That's just not what I do, right? I just don't have him, because when most people are drafting him, I'm drafting the hitters. So I thought to myself, well, what the hell? Let's give it a shot. And it's, of course, a day later he ends up getting hurt. That's how it goes. So shame on me for taking no, I'm just saying, but that's how it goes. So anyway, Grayson Rodriguez is on my team. Hopefully, if he's on your team, you've built pitching depth. The next week is very important, because when he throws again, we'll get the understanding of, is it 3 more weeks he's out? They're going to have to shut him down? Is it 6 weeks? Very difficult to draft Grayson Rodriguez at anything remotely approaching where he was previously being drafted. Like don't do it. He can't be SP35 off the board. He can't be SP26 off the board. He can't. The question is, how far do you want to push that right now with the uncertainty with his arm? And again, remember, it was triceps, and now we're hearing injection in his elbow. Jacob deGrom is doing something that I was talking with my partner over the weekend, and she's a doctor and a lawyer. She's a fancy lady, and so she's pretty smart, and she's heard me talk about baseball for a decade. So she knows enough of it. We've seen games together, all that kind of good stuff. She's a good sport. Listens to me ramble on about fantasy sports, and we're having this discussion, and I was saying, look, you're a doctor. Help me out here. Logically, right? If you're doing something at 100%, I say, well, and I've said it on the show here, if you're doing anything at 100%, you're more apt to blow out, right? If you're at 90%, you'll pull back. If you're on the freeway going 130 miles an hour and just got your engine gunned on how long is it going to be until you throw something? Till a belt breaks, you throw a rod, something like that, right? So I said, and she said, yeah, of course, that makes sense. Okay. Then we get this report. Interestingly enough, the timing is very similar. We did this in the morning. I did the walk with her and the dog, and then got the report out of Texas that Jacob deGrom says, look, I can throw 100 miles an hour, feeling good, but I'm going to throw 97 miles an hour. Why? Because I want to stay healthy. And here's the quote. I'd rather stick at 97 where I want rather than 100 that leaks back a little bit. I think it's pitching smarter. Practically speaking, 197 what's he going to give up? One more base hit a game? Like, it's Jacob deGrom. His stuff is tremendous. His location is elite. It makes all the sense. He should throw 95 if it keeps him healthy. He should throw 94 if it keeps him healthy, right? Now, Jacob deGrom is different. And that's the issue that most of these pitchers deal with anymore, is that, you know, as I was discussing with my lady on the weekend, oh, it looks like we're finally live on Twitter. Hey, Twitter X, finally, thank you. Look at you, whoopie-doo. Did we finally go live? We finally went live. Here we go. So sorry about that, folks. We're now on, you can always watch the show on Twitter X at Fantasy Guru's site. That is up and available right now. I just kept pushing buttons and stuff, so then maybe I can focus back on the show. So deGrom should throw 94, 95 if it keeps him healthy. Stay on the field. That should be his goal, because at 95 miles an hour, he's still an all-star caliber performer, right? So it's great for him to say this, but he has the ability to do this, to back off the pitching and still be an elite hurler. Most hurlers don't, right? Most guys can't afford to take 3 or 4 miles an hour off their fastball and still be successful at the major league level. So all these guys come up, they're blazing out. You know, Gerrit Cole's losing a little bit of velocity as he ages. He doesn't throw 96, 97. Now it's 95, 96, you know. So how much can he pull back? You know, and I'm not saying that has anything to do with his arm injury, but that's where we're at. You know, Grayson Rodriguez is trying to make his mark and trying to become that all-star pitcher everyone believes he can be. Is he going to pull back and throw 93, or is he going to keep throwing 96? So I think we're just at that era that, you know, Phil Backer and I, our producer over at SiriusXM, we're talking about this. I just don't think that there's an answer, other than these guys have to throw less hard, which is not the right way to say it, but I think that's only pull back on the velocity is the only answer. The problem is that's not what they're asked to do. They're not asked to pitch 7 innings. I talked about Rick Russell the other day. Rick Russell would throw, I don't know. I don't even know what Rick Russell threw. 88 miles an hour Rick Russell's throwing all game long. Here in the bottom of the 6th inning, runners on 2nd and 3rd. Here comes 91 from Rick Russell, right? He'd keep it in the back. He'd keep it in the kitty, and then when he needed it, here it is. Nowadays, you just come out and throw 91 until you can't throw anymore. So it's pitching complete. In the old days, pitchers would go along until they needed it, and then they do it. And then now it's like you just do it. And when you need it, if you don't have it anymore, well, then you're out. We just go to another pitcher. It's not the way the game was. So you can't really work your way into this stuff anymore. It just doesn't work. It's not what teams expect. It's not what teams ask you to do, and it's not what you paid. So I don't know. I fear that, you know, there's really no way around this. It's why we have talked previously on the show, on SiriusXM, articles, all these kind of things about doing offensive-only leagues, which I know some of you think is just the dumbest thing ever. I'm in an offense-only league. I really enjoy it. You know, winning and losing your fantasy league shouldn't be about whose starting pitching staff stays healthy. And it's kind of become that. So good for Jacob deGrom. I hope he stays healthy. I don't believe he will, but this certainly gives him a better opportunity if he's throwing at 95% versus 100%. Francisco Alvarez, we switch things over to the Mets, and on the offensive side of things, give me out 6 to 8 weeks with a fractured left hand. He was injured in batting practice. Last year was the UCL. Yes, you have a UCL in your elbow. You also have a UCL in your thumb. Last year was his thumb that cost him a month and a half. This season, it's going to be a broken hand. Obviously, Alvarez came into the season as a lot of people's, hey, if we got a catcher who's never hit 30 home runs before, who's going to do it? It's Alvarez. Top 10 catcher according to most people. Some people had him in the top 5 or 6. Like, we're really expecting that breakout campaign. Not going to happen now. Even if he really breaks out, he's going to miss a month of the season. It's just tough. You know, it's just one of those scenarios where, you know, that's just what we're dealing with here. And it's not an ideal scenario whatsoever for Francisco Alvarez. They don't have, I mean, Luis Torrens is the only other catcher, so they'll have to do something there. There's no answer for the Mets. If you have Francisco Alvarez, you don't just go pick up some other Met catcher. You have to do something else. You have to go see if Freddie Fermin's on the waiver wire. You have to hope that Andy Rodriguez, you know, gets enough playing time behind Joey Bart in Pittsburgh, something like that. If you're in a 1-catcher league, you have maybe Ryan Jeffers on the waiver wire, right? You have better options. But in a 2-catcher league, it's tough. You just have to piece it together with Francisco Alvarez. Now, his teammate Brandon Nimmo is somebody that we've talked about an awful lot on the show. We talked about the plantar fasciitis and the foot and what does that mean, and how I had some concerns because it's like, you know, this is an issue that, you know, the only answer, you can have surgery, but the only real answer that doesn't cost you a season is rest. Then you look at Nimmo, and, you know, though there's been times where he's been on the field every day, there's also been times where he hasn't. So I was already backing off Nimmo a little bit. Now we get news that over the weekend he had a gel injection to lubricate his right knee. And I'm just saying it. I'm not out to the point where Brendan Nimmo is now outfielder 96 in the rankings at fantasyguru.com. But Ray Flowers, I'm not drafting Brandon Nimmo. I'm not doing it. He's got the foot that's there. He's got the knee now. And it's like, you get an injection for lubrication in your knee. Really? I mean, the issue's been there for his knee. Maybe it's no big deal. There's no structural damage. They ran an MRI and said, okay. But this thing's smoldering with Brandon Nimmo. And I can't. And it's too bad, too, because obviously he's a very good player. And, that is a very impressive lineup if everyone's healthy. I don't know where they're going to be on opening day in the Mets. But Nimmo, to me, he doesn't run enough. Batting average isn't high enough. I need him to play 158 games. He's playing 128 games. It just doesn't really work. So I'm not drafting Brandon Nimmo in any of my leagues moving forward. I don't know if you want to. Again, as your fifth, sixth outfielder, fine. But be cautious with Brandon Nimmo. There's some smoke there, even if there's not a fire yet. Giancarlo Stanton, as we stay in New York, and we talked about this on the show, and I will admit freely that I don't understand this at all. So Stanton has got issues in both of his elbows. We heard he had tendonitis. Okay, then we heard he's getting injections. Okay, again, you get injections for tendonitis. You get cortisone shots. You can get PRP, which is pretty aggressive for tendonitis, but you can do that. Okay. Then we're hearing Stanton, who talked to the reporters on the weekend, said that, remember, it's not his right or his left arm, it's both arms. Both. Apparently, both arms have the same issue, which is bizarre. Bizarre. You're all right or left-handed. Have you ever hurt both sides of your body at the same time in the same way? You might hurt your right arm doing this, and they might hurt your left arm doing this, and it might be the same spot, but it's not the same issue, right? Okay. He said now, Stanton on Saturday, that his elbow injuries are considered severe. That's the word he used, severe. If he has a severe situation going on, why isn't he, or why hasn't he done something more significant in the offseason? Like if it's a severe issue, and when I hear severe, that's surgical, right? Tendonitis is not severe. A torn muscle is not severe, unless it's torn off the bone, right? So severe, right? And then he says that the injuries, not injury, injuries came from a bat adjustment that he made last season. And also said that if he has to have surgery, his season's over. So whatever this bat adjustment, and I've heard of a lot of bat adjustments in my life. I've made a lot of bat adjustments in my life. I've studied the swing, and we talked about this on the show previously. If you missed it, my coach, when I was in pony baseball at 13 years old, had a batting cage in his backyard and a video camera, and we'd record batting practice sessions and go break down the swing on his old TV. And so I was at the forefront of this 35 years ago, before people were even doing this. So I spent a lot of time. I've never heard of a bat adjustment that breaks both your elbows. So I don't know what's going on with Stanton. And this is terrible news for the Yankees. Stanton's never been on my draft list. If you've been with me for a long time, thank you. If you're newer to my analysis or to our work over at fantasyguru.com, let's just say I'm like I'm 7 for 8 with Stanton. Like I always say, don't draft Stanton. One time I was wrong. Okay, dude is always hurt. Clearly, if all this stuff is happening right now and this story is accurate, it doesn't make any sense to me. But if it is accurate, the only assumption that seems fair is that this dude broke his body lifting weights. He broke his body doing steroids if he did them. I don't know if he did. Using HGH if he did. I don't know. I don't know about any of the illegal stuff, but I will say that he must have broke his body doing weights. Just keep it simple. I was having this discussion over the weekend too. If you're Giancarlo Stanton's a huge dude. I mean, it's not. He's 6'5". He could be 6'5", 220, right? He doesn't need to be 6'5", 250 and look like he's on Muscle and Fitness magazine, which he's been in the past. And this has been a long running thing with Stanton. You all know it. You don't need to be buff to play baseball. In fact, buff baseball players often don't work, right? So I don't know what the hell's going on with Giancarlo Stanton. He's got to be on the no draft board at this point, even if you're in an A-only league. I mean, you don't throw $2 at him and, you want to get him your last pick, fine. But, oh, dear God, I have no idea what's going on there. DJ LeMahieu's out, too. The Yankees are in trouble to start the season. That's not a place that we expected them to be. On the hill, Sandy Alcantara. Now, this is good news. Sandy Alcantara, he has basically been told by the team, and the team has actually shared this with the media as well, that there really are no limitations on his workload this season. and this is great. Alcantara, for those people that have forgotten, because it has been a while, it was one of the better right-handed pitchers in baseball. He's only 29 years old. He's a big dude, 6'5", 210 pounds. He's thrown 197, 205, 228, 184 innings. So tons of innings coming here. And then he hurt his arm and had Tommy John surgery. Didn't throw an official pitch at the major league level in 2024. In fact, he didn't throw an official pitch anywhere, didn't pitch in the minors either. So we have a 29-year-old who is on a contract this year and next year. He's very reasonable. He makes about $11 million a year this year and next year. So there's not a huge investment here. He obviously needs to reestablish himself to get that big contract. He'll be 31 when he becomes a free agent. I don't think the Marlins, are giving him $200 million, so he'll look to go somewhere else. But Alcantara will look to reestablish himself as one of the better right-handed pitchers in baseball. They're saying, again, no innings cap, which is great news. But the question we have to deal with is that, yes, the team has been patient with his recovery and all of that. But he didn't throw an official pitch last season. Now, remember, the previous 3 years, he was at 180 innings. You take COVID out, 4 straight full seasons of 180 innings. How many innings can he throw this season? 1. And 2, how many innings will he throw this season effectively? That's the second part. They may say, hey, dude, if you want to throw 180 innings, go for it. But what if he throws 180 innings and his ERA is 4.5? Right? What if he starts out great and then 15 starts in, the velocity's down 1.5 miles, he's losing some, he's 80 RPMs from his curveball are gone. You know what I mean? It's like that's so Alcantara is what's his ADP right now? Let's look it up. Just sort of the month of March at the NFBC. His ADP is about 145 overall, about 53rd at pitcher. I'm comfortable with that price point. I'd be fine investing at that price point. Remember, though, we keep investing with pitchers. You look at guys around him: Rodon, Flaherty, Jared Jones, Robbie Ray, Christopher Sanchez. Keep investing in pitching. I am comfortable rostering him at his price point. But being honest, especially if I was in a head-to-head league, I'd be a little less bullish. Because obviously you'll need him in the later matchups in the year, playoffs and all that. And I just, the Marlins will not be playing for the playoffs. They will have nothing going for them. If Alcantara does have a 5-start run where his velocity is down 1.5 miles, they're just going to shut him down. They're not going to push him. So keep that in mind if you're in a head-to-head setup. Clay Holmes transitioning from the bullpen to the rotation has looked terrific for the Mets. We have a whole East Coast show going on here today. He's looked terrific. Not just that, he's got a new changeup that he's using to help offset the diving fastball sinker that he throws, getting it moving in the other direction. He had 6 whiffs on the 16 times he threw it over the weekend, which is really impressive. And, he's somebody that's starting to get damn interesting. Now, the move from the bullpen to the rotation has happened. Oftentimes it's the other direction, right? Usually the guy kind of flames out as a starter and they make him a reliever. With Clay Holmes, they're going in the other direction. He's not young. He'll be 32 years old in 3 weeks, right about opening day, actually. He'll be 32 years old, so he's not young. You look at his workload the last 4 seasons, 70, 63, 63, 63, 60 outings every season. So that's one of the, higher end usage charts you'll see for relievers. But at the same time, there's no 75-inning pitch seasons on his track record as a major leaguer ever. He'll be 32 years old before the season begins. And his career began at the big league level in 2018. He's never thrown 75 innings. And I know a lot of projection models, because I'm looking at a couple of them right now, have him at 160 innings, 155 innings, 170 innings. Kind of just what we're talking about Alcantara. Now, this is not a guy who was injured, but, going to 130 innings is doubling what he's ever done. 140 innings. 140 innings would be doubling what he's ever done as a big league pitcher before. The training's different. The way you attack batters is different. As we're discussing, he's trying to broaden his pitch mix because he realizes he needs more to go through an order multiple times versus seeing a guy once every 3 weeks. I really like the skills. Who doesn't? And I was much more concerned about what the outlook would be for him 2 months ago than I am now. I'm more comfortable with him being an effective starter. The question with Clay Holmes is, what does that look like? Is Clay Holmes, making 29 starts, 32 starts, is 175 innings, is 155 innings, is 135 innings? So he is one of these pitchers that I think, given his ADP, you invest in. What is his ADP? Clay Holmes. His ADP is 230th overall, 88th at pitcher. Again, I'm totally fine with that. You want to invest at that price point? Sure, but keep your expectations in check, understanding that if he hit 140 innings, he's doubling what he's ever done as a major leaguer. That'd be a significant season for him. Going to the Red Sox, we got an issue. I was hoping, because I've drafted him in multiple leagues already, that Liam Hendriks would emerge as the closer for the Red Sox. He still could, but his spring has been really rough. He's given up 6 runs in 4 innings. Again, it's 4 innings. In the grand scheme, it doesn't mean anything, but he's dealing with his health and all this stuff. And so you can't start a season with a struggling 9th inning guy. Unless that struggling 9th inning guy is Emmanuel Clase, right, or Josh Hader, you just can't do it. So what this means is it seems very likely that in a best-case scenario, Liam Hendriks is now sharing the 9th inning. In a best-case scenario. In a worst-case scenario, he's pitching the 7th. So he's definitely been lowered in the rankings. He was lowered in the rankings substantially over the weekend at fantasyguru.com. We did, again, a lot of changes made here. We're starting to get more information health-wise and performance-wise and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you check the rankings out at fantasyguru.com. Those rankings are updated as needed, which is daily at this point, really. Remember, subscribe tab in the top right corner. Send a note to support@fantasyguru.com. Support@fantasyguru.com if you got any questions. You can also hit me up in Discord. I'm in there all day. But Liam Hendriks is going from somebody I was taking in the 20th round of a 15-team mixed league to the 27th round, right? Now, the question is, who's the guy that takes over? Aroldis Chapman is the player that is surging. Now, Aroldis Chapman on his last outing on Saturday, he gave up 2 runs, which is not great. Now, the good news is that his splitter was different. He was throwing the splitter slower than he threw it last year. So it seems like he's trying to tweak that, maybe gain a little bit more separation, which not going to be a bad thing. Chapman is uneven. Chapman loses control of the strike zone, but Chapman still misses bats, and he's still very effective, including last season. So Chapman is moving up in the rankings at fantasyguru.com. Don't forget, Slate and Whitlock are also in the mix here. So I think Liam Hendriks is the big bottom line, big takeaway here is that Liam Hendriks is really losing his value because there are 3 other guys in Chapman, Slayton, and Whitlock that are there. And whereas if Liam Hendriks came out and looked good this spring and sharp, he probably is the guy to start. Now, he could still be the guy with this. I'm not expecting Aroldis Chapman to save 28 games for the Red Sox this year. I don't think you should be either. So this is one of those bullpens where it's not a bad idea to cuff your guys. I'm in these slow drafts that I'm in. I still don't understand. I don't understand what people are doing, and I've said this before, and I'm actually going to write about it this week because it's got me so. Should you be handcuffing your relievers? We handcuff running backs in football. Should we handcuff relievers in baseball? Again, there'll be an article out over at FG this week because I was going through it again this weekend, and it's like people are jumping ADP in these leagues I'm in to take my handcuffs. They're jumping ADP by 30, 40 spots to take my handcuff. Like, get your own here. So anyway, I'll write about it this week over at FG. But I'm not expecting Chapman to save 28 games. I'm not discounting the possibility that he could lead the team in saves. I'm not discounting that at all. That could totally happen. But he's a lefty. The other guys are talking to righties. They got to figure this out. But not good news in the short term, at least for Liam Hendriks. Good news from another aging pitcher. This guy's a starter. This guy's not coming back from off the field issues like Liam Hendriks is dealing with cancer. But Max Scherzer had 6 strikeouts in 3 1/3 scoreless innings Saturday against the Tigers. His velocity is starting to tick up a little bit. It's not prime Scherzer. Who cares? It's still pretty good. His fastball velocity over the weekend was the same as last year. He's had a couple of nice outings in a row here. Through 9 innings this spring, how many walks does he have? Big old folks, 0. 0 walks with 14 strikeouts. Max Scherzer, just like he was last year, he is again this year a quality pitcher given the price point. How many starts will he make? I don't know. It's not a good place to pitch. The NL East or the AL East is a terrible place to pitch, actually, but Max Scherzer's ADP is 108 at pitcher and about 270 overall at the NFBC in the month of March. Again, I'm in at that price point. That's another guy. And so you're kind of getting the point here, I think, that in what I made earlier when I was rambling on trying to get the tech working. It's not about do we jump ADP by 40 spots to take Max Scherzer? No, we don't do that. But if Max Scherzer's sitting out there and there's 100 pitchers off the board already, Max Scherzer's, let's go. Like, he's the kind of guy you want. And you remember, these guys are going to be necessary. And if Max Scherzer has a 3.8 ERA with a 1.19 whip, he's got to strike out an inning. Like, come on, like, what's wrong with that, right? Maybe it's 21 starts. Maybe it's 16 starts. But that's already built into his price point. So, still a big fan of Max Scherzer. Jackson Jobe, on the other end of his career, right at the start, Jackson Jobe threw 3 2/3 scoreless innings against the Blue Jays in that game on the other side. And wow, it's starting to look more and more like Jobe will be in the rotation for the Tigers. And that's going to cause his value to continue to go up. What's it at? It's ahead of Scherzer right now. He's up to 247 overall, 97th at pitcher. And if they announce the Tigers do that he's in the rotation, he'll probably jump another 50 spots. So, and his ADP will be around 200 is what I meant. We talked about last week. I was reading the stats wrong. Remember, we're looking at Jobe, who's never thrown 100 innings as a professional, and we're worried about what that looks like, this year in particular. But his talent is undeniable. He's in a pretty nice groove right now, and we're moving in the right direction. Angelo says, yeah, Tomoyo Sugano is looking pretty good. He is, and he's very interesting because there are so many pitchers out there that come over from Japan and from around the world and all that kind of stuff. And we want to see these guys, they throw 97 miles an hour and all that. Sugano doesn't. He throws 92, 91. But he gets outs. Like we were talking about this earlier, like ain't nothing wrong with being Tom Glavine. Get you in the Hall of Fame. I'm not saying Sugano is Tom Glavine, but so Sugano is not somebody who was highly regarded. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but he has moved up in the rankings at FG because we've noticed the same thing you have too, Angelo. He's looked pretty good this spring. Talk about hitters a little bit here. Adolis Garcia resumed swinging a bat on Sunday, which is good news. He's dealing with an oblique injury. They said it was minor. It appears that is the case. Barring any setbacks, it is fully expected that he's going to take hacks, play some games here over the next couple of weeks, and be good to go on opening day. Really good news for Adolis Garcia, who came into camp with a revamped swing and feeling good, and his knee was better, all these kind of things. So looks like he's got plenty of time to get ready for opening day at this point. Another guy who's expected to be ready for opening day is his teammate Wyatt Langford. He's had an oblique injury as well. I don't know what's in the water down there, but he had an oblique injury that's kept him out of action. He returned to game action on Sunday. His first game action actually didn't return. It was his first game this spring. So he's back in the lineup right now. So it's looking like the Rangers will have both those outfielders available on opening day. And just to reiterate the expectations for this offense, they're really high. I mean, a projected lineup would look something like this. Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Wyatt Langford, Jock Peterson, Adolis Garcia, Josh Young, Evan Carter, Jake Berger, and Jonah Heim. Now, I don't know if Jake Berger hits 8th. That, to me, this is what Roster Resources is projecting right now. And you run into the you want to do lefty-righty thing. My expectation would be that Berger would hit 6th. Likely because they want to get Jock Peterson in there, to separate, righties, Adolis Garcia and Wyatt Langford. But that is about as good an 8. I mean, Jonah Heim, whatever, right? But that's about as good an 8, some top 8 in the batting order as you're going to see in baseball. So there are going to be a lot of runs scored if those guys stay healthy with the Rangers, and it sounds like they're number 3 and potentially 5 hitter if that stays. Those two guys are going to be good to go coming back from their oblique injuries. Christian Yelich hit a home run on Sunday. A big blast to dead center field off Tyler Anderson, which is great to see. He's obviously dealing with the back issue. He said he's fine. He said he'll be ready for opening day. We remember we had that, I think it was a Friday, where we got the report like, they don't know about Christian Yelich. And he came out the next day and said, I'm fine. Like, I don't know where that report came from. He is trending toward being available on opening day. He is trending toward doing what he has done frequently, which is be a pretty bang-up fantasy option at no worse than an outfielder 3. There's always the worry, especially with the back issue, especially with his build, right, that, he stopped running, but he didn't last year. He kept running. So at this point, I think it's not about what we get on a per plate appearance, per game basis with Christian Yelich. The question with Christian Yelich is really how many numbers are in that games played column. Is it 118? Is it 128? Is it 138? Is it 148? I think the safe position to take is, let's call it 128. 150 is kind of the Ironman anymore. No one really plays 160. So if it's 150 is what we're really shooting for, and he's playing 128 effective games, he could still be a guy hitting 15 to 20 home runs. He could still get 15 to 20 bases. Like we know, scored a ton of runs. We saw it last year. So Christian Yelich seemingly on pace to be the player he was last year, which is a very, very good fantasy option. Kyle Manzardo had a couple of hits on a Saturday, and at that point in time, he was 9 for 12. Let's pull him up, see if he played Sunday. I didn't catch if he played yesterday or not. So 9 for 22 spring training. He's still 9 for 22. So he's 9 for 22 right now, which is a 4.9 batting average. And he's a very interesting player because Manzardo, and in a worst-case scenario, Kyle Manzardo appears to be, since he's a lefty swinger, he appears to be set to be in the lineup every day against right-handed pitching for the Guardians. He is a higher end prospect, not an elite prospect, right? That kind of thing. Sometimes I've heard him be a little bit more hit over power, right? So it's like, well, this guy's going to hit 275, 280. Maybe he's a 20 home run guy. So maybe he's Nathaniel Lowe, which is not, playing the big leagues for a decade being that, right? So it's not bad. So maybe Nathaniel Lowe is a fair comp for where Connor Manzardo could end up. Is that sexy or exciting? No. But right now, he's virtually free. Is he even being drafted? Where's his ADP? Of course he's being drafted, but where's his ADP? Let's do a check. Manzardo's ADP is 476. So he's not being drafted. I was correct. If you're in a 15-teamer, he gets drafted at the end. If you're not, he's not really getting drafted. And I'm not saying if you're in a 10 or 12-team league, you should draft Manzardo. Because I think, again, I think in a best-case scenario, he sits against lefties. And again, I think he's more hit than power at this point, which is not ideal for a guy who is UT only eligible, unless your league is different. But the most intriguing thing is, how does this batting order play out? And with the way the lineup is seemingly setting up for the Guardians, Manzardo's seemingly going to be hitting second or third. So he's either going to be behind Quan and Ramirez or between Quan and Ramirez. Now, if they again break camp and he's hitting eighth, okay. But right now, like if you're hitting second or third for a major league team and you're with those two all-star caliber guys right next to you, right? Now, Lane Thomas is floating around. Lane Thomas is often hit at the top of the order because of his speed, but he strikes out too much. He doesn't get on base a ton, so he is better as a 5 or 6 with speed, right? And that's most likely what the Guardians are going to do. But keep an eye on things with Manzardo. He's intriguing. He's intriguing because especially that batting order spot. Something to think about. Another guy, and the final guy to talk about here as we end up what has been a somewhat spotty show. I'll get to the question in the Discord here in a second in the chat room. And I apologize. I was all over the place trying to get tech working, and I know the start of the show was terrible. And I had a really great show planned in my head, too, so that's often how this goes. But the Astros, Cam Smith. Cam Smith was in the top 50 rookie rankings over at fantasyguru.com, but I don't think he was in the actual rankings for this season. That has changed. He is now in the rankings at third base over at fantasyguru.com. And with each passing report and with each passing day, I'm going to suggest he might move up. Because here's the thing with Cam Smith. Cam Smith has started out blazing hot. Who is Cam Smith? Cam Smith is a 6'3", 225-pound righty swinger for the Astros. Top 100 prospect in baseball. He can really hit. And Jim Bowden, who I spoke with, I know he told me that, I think he said it on air. It might have been off air. Sorry, Jim, if it wasn't on air. He basically said to Cam Smith, they won't hold him back. Like the Astros will promote him as soon as they have a need. And they might have a need right now. He went to FSU in college, had some huge seasons there. His final year in college, he had an OPS of 1,100. He then went to A-ball and had an 1,100 OPS at A-ball, 15 games, 20 games at high A-ball, 5 games at AA. And that's the issue. He has 32 games of professional experience right now. Now, again, he went to college, tremendous success in college, but he's got 32 games of professional experience. He does have 1,000 OPS in those 32 games. Okay, so there's that. And there's also the fact that if you look at his spring training numbers right now, they're out of this world. He's 8 for 13 with 2 home runs. 8 for 13. So all this is trending toward this guy is going to be up and potentially a significant part of this offense at some point, maybe even early in the year. On top of all of that, we now have the situation with Christian Walker and his oblique. So if Christian Walker is unable to play on opening day, what does this team do? Now, maybe they just go John Singleton at first base, and, here we go. We have Ben Gamble in the outfield as a support piece. We'll just go. There's also a path to Cam Smith being in this lineup on a daily basis, for them putting Cam Smith at third base, taking Isaac Paredes and moving him to first base, and here we go. Now, you look at this lineup with the Astros, they've got 2 spots that are kind of Center field is Jake Myers, and I think because of his defense, that's likely the way it's going to go. And then second base is probably Brandon Rogers, though Mauricio Dubon's floating around. And, I've heard some whispers, Cam Smith at second base. That seems impossible to me. So what could happen is Cam Smith, again, starts at third. They move Paredes to first because they end up with Walker on the IL. And then we'll see, right? And maybe Cam Smith hits 350 the first 3 weeks. Well, Walker misses time, and he stays around all year and gets 482 plate appearances this year. Maybe he starts for the team and he goes 2 for 19 and they demote him. We don't see him for 3 months. So I'm not saying Cam Smith is somebody you got to draft. Dynasty keeper leagues, totally different. But his outlook is certainly much higher now than it was mere weeks ago because of the situation with Christian Walker. Continue to watch it. And, we say it all the time. If you hit, teams find a way to get you in the lineup. Sometimes we look at these teams and it's like, this doesn't work. It doesn't fit. How's this going? You hit, you play. He hit in college. He hit in the minors, and he's hitting right now in the month of March in spring training. Cam Smith, a name to remember moving forward. All right. I see a comment here in the Discord from Kyle. Kyle has a question. I have a draft this weekend. I love the pitching articles. Draft as an auction. I'm looking at getting 2 pitchers in the late teens, early 20s, and then the rest of my SPs to be in the single digits. Your thoughts? I just posted, Kyle, and everyone else too, because I had a good question in Discord this morning. Someone asked me about like auction thoughts and stuff. And because I've been doing this show every day, I used to do, for those people that remember, I used to do podcasts all the time. But we changed to the show. So the show's on every day, so I'm just not doing the podcast because I'm spending 2 hours a day doing this versus doing a podcast. So what I did do is I updated, I didn't update. I reposted, and you can see it there. It was over the weekend, March 7th, the auction podcast. Now, the auction podcast is from 2023. Okay, I haven't updated it yet. But in that podcast, the strategies and theories are the same, so you could definitely listen to it. And even if you don't want to listen to it because it's 2 years old, Ray, I don't have 45 minutes. Okay. In the actual article, there's a write-up. Okay. In that write-up is my kind of rough, here's how you put a team together plan for an auction. So I really encourage you, Kyle, and everyone else to go check that out. It's titled Ray's Rundown 3-7, the Auction Podcast. There's a full rundown in there, and it says, okay, these are the rough hitting dollar amounts you want to hit for offense, the dollar amounts you want to hit for pitching. Here are how you can put a team together if you use the balanced approach. Here's the way you can put a team together if you're being aggressive with stars and scrubs, this kind of thing. So here are the buckets of numbers you could spend on pitchers. So like you say to yourself here, Cal, I'm looking at getting 2 pitchers in the late teens, early 20s, and the rest of my pitchers in single digits, starting pitchers in single digits. What do you think? In the plan that I have posted here, and again, this plan can be adjusted to any level you want. Okay, this is just a outline of how I would help set this thing up for you, if you or anyone, Kyle, that's kind of looking at how to do this. In my hypothetical model that's on that article over at FG, in the hypothetical model, I'm spending 170 on hitting and 90 on pitching. You might want to go 180 and 80. You might want to go 260. So this all depends, right? And you can change it how you want. But if you said 2 of your guys in the 20s and then everyone else in the single digits, that's fine. That's not what the plan suggests. And again, the plan that's laid out is just an outline to get you started. The real answer to your question, Kyle, is what is the rest of your league doing, and who are those pitchers you're getting? Like we talked about earlier, like Kyle, if you're spending $5 on Kyle Harrison and $5 on Charlie Morton and $3 on Andrew Abbott, we don't like that, right? Now, if you're in a league where for some reason the pitchers are less expensive than they should be, if it's Reese Olson for $5, yes. If it's Tanner Houck for $5, yes. If it's Brandon Pfaadt for $6, yes. So it all depends on how it's being spent. In theory, I do not find any problem at all, Kyle, with you saying I'm going to spend $20 on 2 guys and then get a bunch of single-digit guys. No problem with that. Don't make them all $1 or $2 guys, okay? Because if you're going to do that, you're really tilting into the stars and scrubs level. And then I'd probably be even more aggressive with pitching. I'd go from $20 guys to maybe $2 $25 guys if you're going to do that. But if you're going to be in that $5 to $9 range with most of the single guys, I think 2 guys at $20 totally works. Again, check out the article over at FG for some other examples, and you can put this together any way you want. It's always difficult because you don't know. I don't know. Is your league doing if you have a 12-team league, let's say, you didn't say here, Cal, but let's say you're in a 12-team league. You're in a 12-team league. Are 10 of the teams doing stars and scrubs? If 10 of the teams are doing stars and scrubs, you're going to find a ton of single-digit guys that are great. If 10 of the 12 teams in your league are doing the balanced approach, well, then $9 players are going to cost 12, and $5 players are going to cost 9. So it gets more difficult to do this plan. But in theory, great plan, no problem whatsoever with it. It all depends how your league drafts. Check out that article, which is actually a podcast/article. Just reposted over the weekend on March 7th, the auction podcast. Check that out, Kyle, and everyone else over at fantasyguru.com. So again, I apologize for the wonkiness of the show today. Will be much better tomorrow. The plan will be to visit with Armando Marsal tomorrow. Maybe we'll open up a pack of cards. We'll definitely talk about the football signings that are occurring. We'll get his thoughts on some of the big name names, Adams, Metcalf, all the stuff that's going on in the NFL. Josh Allen, $330 million. NFL's throwing money around over the weekend. So we'll talk more about that with Armando tomorrow. Hopefully the tech will work off the hop. I apologize to everybody today if your normal way of listening to the show was impacted, or if you had to sit there and listen to me stammer for 10 minutes as I was trying to figure it out. But we got it done. We got it put together. If you have any questions, hit me up on social medias at @BRayFlowers. You can always send me a note in Discord over at fantasyguru.com. Don't forget, March Madness is available. I didn't mention this earlier because I was scrambling. Remember, the March Madness guide is available right now. That gets you access to the live stream. It gets you access to Discord. It gets you access to breakdowns of all the teams, brackets and picks, and access to the Discord, which I mentioned. All that content. It's a one-time only price point. You get in there, you get involved with us over at FG. Everyone loves the tournament. We can help you out over at fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. Get signed up. You can also get signed up for the baseball package. You can get all 3 parts of the baseball package, seasonal, DFS wagering. You can get 2 of the parts. You can get just 1 of the parts or pieces. Hit us up over at fantasyguru.com. Subscribe top right corner and send a note to support at fantasyguru.com. All right, so thanks for listening and watching today. We'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully the tech will be smoother. We'll have less stammering, and I will do my best to speak better, which is usually something I do pretty well, but something I didn't do so well today. Yeah, tomorrow will be better. It can't be worse. Well, it could be worse. Don't ever say that, knock on wood. It could always be worse. Don't ever say it can't be worse. I said that once, and it got worse. Sorry, wood knocking if you can hear it. It will be better tomorrow. We'll be positive. So have a good day. Don't forget, also, player profile series is starting this week. For those of you waiting for it and hoping it would happen this year, it's starting to happen right now. The first player profile is up, Reynaldo Lopez. We'll have those cranking out here over the next couple of weeks as we get ready for your drafts and we get ready for the start of 2025 season. A 1,500-worder on Reynaldo Lopez. What does the righty of the Braves have to do to replicate last season? And what are the odds that he does that? Check us out over at fantasyguru.com. And in the description below, you can find links to the website, or again, you can just go to fantasyguru.com and click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. All right, folks, thanks for listening today. We really appreciate it. We'll be back again. And have a good day. Have a good weekend. I can't get there. I need to reset. I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, by the way, 8 o'clock Eastern tonight, SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Justin Fensman and I will be breaking down that draft. If you want to get a little bit more draft coverage over there on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. I'm Ray Flowers. This has been a wonky Fantasy Sports Daily. We'll be back again tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on the show that is powered by fantasyguru.com.